Hello, YouTube. Today I'm gonna be checking out more Reddit stories. For the third time. Is it? Yeah. Alright, let's cut to the chase.
My neighbor kept her disgusting secret hidden from everyone, and the second I found it, I realized why. I exposed her immediately and couldn't sleep at night because of what I saw. Now, a year later, she's back at my doorstep begging me to clear her name. When I was organizing the neighborhood's trick-or-treating, I told all the parents their kids could wear whatever they wanted. Just make sure it's appropriate for walking long distances. I even sent some of those cute costumes from Pinterest for inspiration. It was going to be a blast, and I wanted all the kids to have this in their memories forever. There was just one mom who I was secretly hoping wouldn't come. Not because of her kid, she was lovely, but because of her. She was the type to yell at a waiter when they forgot to bring a straw, to care more about her looks than her own daughter. And whenever she was around, she'd give me beauty tips about how to starve myself so my husband likes me more, or better.
Oh man, that sounds horrible. Just starving yourself to make yourself more attractive. I don't care how a woman looks. If she is of the opposite gender and she is normal and pretty, I will date her.
Yet, she'd loudly compare her designer handbag to whatever I was carrying, making sure everyone knew how much hers cost. So it was the night before trick-or-treating when I got the call. It was Susan. She told me her and her child wouldn't be attending because the route is too long for them. I told her that it was no problem and went into my notes app to delete her from the list. But right before I could hang up, she stopped me. Don't you think it was a little irresponsible of you to think that everyone could walk for such a long time? I thought she was pranking me, but her voice was cold and painfully condescending. It's only a quarter of a mile. Only, she interrupted.
You know, how much even is a quarter of a mile? Like, a quarter of a mile is 1.6. I mean, like, a mile is 1.6 kilometers. 1.6 kilometers divided to 4 is like 0.4 kilometers. Really? That's 400 meters. That's 400 goddamn meters. How can you not walk that? I walk more than that on my daily walk. What the fuck? All right, I'm lying. I don't go on daily walks. I do one walk or two, one or two walks like every other weekend. But still, I walk like 2 kilometers on those walks. What the hell?
Just because you need to lose weight doesn't mean the rest of us do. I sighed and plastered on the usual HR voice I did whenever I talked to Susan. I guess we all have our preferences, I exclaimed before hanging up. Good riddance. So there I am on Halloween, doing a quick head count of the kids before leaving. And who pulls up on my driveway? None other than Susan herself. She was dressed in an extremely inappropriate maid costume, with a dress so low cut it could have passed for a long t-shirt.
Ah, hell no. Hell no, she didn't. No, she didn't. Sorry about that, guys. Sorry for your ears, by the way. Still, that is completely unacceptable. Like, there's probably, like, kids who are, like, three or 4 years old, and you're pulling up in a maid costume. Like, what? Why? Why would you do that?
Meanwhile, her child, Susie, is hiding behind her legs and wearing a maid costume that looked just like hers, except the top was even tighter.
Jesus Christ. I'm pretty sure that's illegal. Isn't that some sort of felony? Like, wait a minute. Isn't that public indecency?
Just stared at her, wondering what the F she was thinking. Hey, eyes up here, Susan yelled with a smirk on her face. Sorry, but some of us actually have curves to show, she added. That's when Susie beckoned her mom to bend down beside her, because she wanted to whisper in her ear. Mom, I don't feel comfortable, I heard her say. Susan whispered back, pain is beauty, and the sooner you learn that.
Fuck no. Beauty is beauty. Pain is pain. And pain is fucking painful, if you guys didn't know that yet. I sure as hell hope you knew that pain is painful. But beauty is completely different than pain. Pain is not beauty. If you go through pain, like, for example, starving yourself, as said in the beginning of this story, where the mother of the other kid was like, hey, you need to starve yourself so your husband likes you, or something like that. No, you do not. If you're pretty and of the opposite gender, anyone will date you, bro. Well, maybe not everyone, but You get the point.
Better. Well, I wasn't going to just stand by and watch a mother do that to her daughter, so I grabbed one of my daughter Isabella's Halloween costumes from the year before and asked if she wanted it. Susan tried to intervene, but I looked her right in the eyes and told her that if she made her daughter uncomfortable in front of me again, I would cause a scene with all the other moms. That shut her up fast. The rest of the trick-or-treating went smoothly, except for Susan, who was lagging behind us at the very back. It was then that I realized why she had
Lagging. Bro is rubber banding. Bro has 999 ping at this point. Sorry.
made her and her daughter both wear promiscuous little outfits because she was flirting with every dad she passed, regardless of whether.
Hell no. Bro, why are you doing this? Why? Man, some people I will never understand. For example, P. Diddy. I will never understand that man.
Were with their wife and kids or not. But even worse, she joked about how Susie was even hotter than most of the moms here, to the grown men. At first, I tried to wave it off as some dumb.
Nope. That is some sort of predatory, that has to be some form of predatory, activity to be, first of all, to make your daughter wear an extremely revealing maid costume, and then proceeding to try and hook her up with men who are probably in their early 40s at this point.
Comment. That was until I noticed Susan and her daughter walking alongside a dad across the street from us. I know I should have just left her alone to live her life, but sometimes you just can't fight the mama bear instinct. And this situation was one of those times, because while Susan was safe with the mom of her best friend, I walked across the street when they weren't paying attention and staggered a few feet away. Your son is the perfect match for my daughter, I heard Susan explain, while batting her eyes like they could help her fly away. I glanced over at the son. He was no younger than 11. Meanwhile, Susie was 5 years older. The whole thing made me sick.
Wait a minute. So the OP here is saying that the other mom tries to hook up a 16-year-old with an 11-year-old. That is sick. That is sick behavior, bro. That is sick. And not in a good way.
Especially how naturally flirting seemed to come to Susie, who was directly mimicking her mother's actions, like she had done it dozens of times before. I dropped in a few comments joking about how Susan has a husband. She doesn't, until the dad got uncomfortable enough to walk away. And as a child carer, I deal with these types of parents on a daily basis. So that evening, after everyone went home, I confronted her. Or rather, her daughter confronted me. "Why did you do that? I almost had another boyfriend," she yelled. "Another?" I asked her what she was talking about, and that's when she said, "Mommy told me my last boyfriend got divorced, so now I'm single again." The color drained from my face. "How old was he?" I asked, voice shaking. IDK like 30? He bought me new earrings every day.
Alright, my EDP senses are tingling. This is unacceptable, bro. The other mom has to go to jail, bro. If she's not looking at jail time at the end of this story, I'm finna quit my career, bro. And a short-lasting career this was, bro. If this mom does not face jail time at the end of this story, I'm gonna quit YouTube, bro. I'm gonna quit YouTube.
Susan immediately rushed over and grabbed her daughter. She yanked Susie away from me so hard the poor kid stumbled. I stood there frozen for a second. My brain was trying to process what I just heard. A 30-year-old man buying jewelry for a 5-year-old. Susan calling him her daughter's boyfriend. I felt sick to my stomach. Susan started dragging Susie toward their car. I snapped out of it and followed them. No way was I letting this go. I caught up to them in my driveway and blocked their path to the street. Susan glared at me. Her face was all twisted up with anger. She told me to move or she'd call the cops. I told her to go ahead and call them. Maybe they'd be interested in hearing about her daughter's 30-year-old boyfriend. That made
Yeah, maybe they would. You'd be looking at serious jail time, of probably like 400 years, maybe. Alright, I'm kidding. Maybe not 400 years, but at least like 3 months, bro.
Pause, just for a second. Then she laughed. It was this fake, high-pitched sound that made my skin crawl. She said I was being dramatic and that I misunderstood everything. Kids say silly things all the time. I looked down at Susie. She was staring at the ground. Her shoulders were hunched up around her ears. She looked so small in that awful costume. I asked her if she was okay. Susan immediately answered for her, said of course she was fine and that I needed to mind my own business. I ignored Susan and kept talking to Susie. I told her she could tell me anything, that I was there to help if she needed it. Susan's grip on her daughter's arm got tighter. I could see her knuckles turning white. That's when my husband Christopher came outside. He'd been putting our kids to bed. He took one look at the situation.
Bro, the OP is more of a mom to Susie than Susie's own mom, bro. Susie's mom is no mom at all, bro.
And came to stand next to me. He asked what was going on. I quickly filled him in while Susan stood there fuming. Christopher's face went pale when I told him about the boyfriend comment. He's usually the calm one between us, but I could see his jaw clenching. He told Susan she needed to explain herself right now. Susan rolled her eyes. She said we were both being ridiculous, that Susie just had a little crush on one of her mom's friends. Kids get crushes all the time. It was harmless and cute. I asked her about the earrings. Susan said he was just being nice, that he felt bad because Susie's dad wasn't in the picture. He was like an uncle to her. Nothing weird about it at all. Christopher wasn't buying it either. He told Susan that grown men don't buy jewelry for little girls they're not related to, and they definitely don't get called boyfriends. Susan's story kept changing every time she opened her mouth. First it was a crush, then he was like an uncle, then she said we were twisting her words, that Susie just called him that because she didn't understand what boyfriend meant. Kids say silly things. I pointed out that Susie seemed to understand exactly what it meant. She'd said he got divorced, so now she was single. That's not something a 5-year-old comes up with on their own. Susan's face got red. She told us we were perverts for even thinking that way.
I think Susie's mom is the pervert here. You know, making your daughter, like a 16-year-old daughter, wear a maid costume and a 5-year-old daughter date a 30-year-old man. Man, this Susie's mom is gonna face so much jail time for all this.
Christopher pulled out his phone. He said he was calling child services. Susan's whole attitude changed instantly. She went from angry to scared in about 2 seconds. She started begging us not to call anyone. She said we didn't understand the situation, that she was a single mom doing her best, that sometimes she needed help from friends, that we were blowing everything out of proportion. The whole neighborhood would gossip about her. I told her I didn't care about gossip. I cared about Susie's safety. Susan started crying, but it felt fake, like she was putting on a show. She kept saying we were ruining her life over nothing. Susie was still silent through all of this. She hadn't said a word since her mom grabbed her. I knelt down to her level again. I asked if she wanted to come inside for some hot chocolate while the adults talked. Susan practically screamed no. She pulled Susie behind her like I was trying to kidnap her kid. She said she'd sue us if we tried anything, that she knew her rights as a parent. We couldn't just take her child. Christopher was already on the phone with someone. I couldn't hear what.
But one of those parental rights is not child abuse, bro. It is not one of them. It's not one of them.
Saying, but Susan was getting more and more panicked. She kept switching between threats and begging. One second she'd say we'd regret this. The next she'd cry about being a victim. Then she played her last card. She said she'd tell everyone I touched Susie inappropriately during trick-or-treating. That's why I gave her a different costume, because I'm some kind of predator who wanted to see her change clothes. I actually laughed. It was so absurd. There were like 20 other parents around when I gave Susie that costume. Everyone saw Susan dress her kid like that, but Susan didn't care about logic. She was desperate. She started yelling about how I was always watching her daughter, how I was obsessed with their family, that I was jealous because she was prettier than me, so I was trying to steal her child. The accusations got wilder and wilder. Christopher finished his call and put his phone away. He told Susan that child services would be sending someone tomorrow, that they'd want to talk to both her.
Yeah, I don't have the patience to go through this 24-minute video. I'm just gonna skip to the end here.
Her family taking care of Susie reached out through child services. They wanted to know if I had any of her belongings. Apparently, Susan had destroyed most of Susie's normal kid clothes after getting arrested. All that was left were those
Ah, shit! Come on! But hell yeah, she got jail time, bro. I don't have to quit my career. Let's go.
Appropriate outfits. I gather.
Nah. Only the inappropriate costumes are left. Bro, this is triggering me, bro. I didn't want to be triggered by some stupid Reddit story, but here I am getting triggered by this, you know?
The Halloween costume I'd given her, plus some of Isabella's old clothes that might fit. When I dropped them off, I got to see Susie for a few minutes. She looked better already. Her hair was in normal kid pigtails instead of styled like a teenager. She was wearing jeans and a dinosaur t-shirt. She actually smiled when she saw me. First real smile I'd seen from her in months. The foster mom, Oakley, seemed really nice. They told me Susie had been asking about me, wanting to know if I was okay. This little girl who'd been through hell was worried about me. It broke my heart. Oakley said Susie was doing therapy twice a week now, starting to understand that what her mom did wasn't normal. Meanwhile, Susan was going completely off the rails. She'd post these long rants on social media about how the government stole her baby, how I was part of some conspiracy against her, how everyone was jealous of her beauty and success. The post got.
No, they are not jealous that you are a bad parent. They are not jealous one bit that you are making your child wear inappropriate clothing. They are not jealous about that one bit.
each day. People screenshotted them before she could delete them. Harold tried to slink back into the neighborhood social scene like nothing happened. Showed up at the community barbecue acting all normal. Nobody wanted to talk to him. Grace's husband actually told him to leave. Harold got all defensive, saying he was a victim too, that Susan had manipulated him. Nobody was buying it. Then Susan did something really stupid. She showed up at Susie's school, just walked right in during recess. The foster family had enrolled Susie there to keep some stability in her life. Susan tried to grab her daughter and run, but the teachers were ready. They'd been warned she might try something.
That is a kidnap charge, isn't it? Because I'm pretty sure that while she does not have custody of the child currently, taking her against her will is illegal, isn't it? I don't know the law. I'm no lawyer, but yeah, I think that's illegal.
Went into lockdown. Police showed up within minutes. Susan was screaming about her rights as a mother while they put her in handcuffs. Susie was hiding in the principal's office, terrified. The whole thing was caught on the school's security cameras. It was the final nail in Susan's coffin. Her bail got revoked after that. The judge said she was a flight risk and a danger to her child. Susan's parents finally showed up from wherever they'd been hiding. Turns out they lived 2 states away and hadn't seen Susie in years. They tried to get custody but failed the background checks. Susan's dad, Anthony, had his own issues with inappropriate behavior around kids. Her mom, Jean, knew about it but stayed with him anyway. The apple didn't fall far from the tree. Child Services said no way were they placing Susie with them. The cycle of abuse stopped here. Our neighborhood watch group became something bigger after that. We started working with other communities to spot signs of child abuse. Maria wrote up guidelines for what to look for. Julia created a private Facebook group for parents to share concerns safely. We turned our trauma into something useful. The criminal case against Susan moved slowly. Her lawyer kept filing motions to delay things, trying to get evidence thrown out, claiming we'd violated her privacy by documenting her behavior. The prosecutor said not to worry. The case was solid, but it was still stressful.
Yeah, that is not illegal. That is not illegal one bit. It is not illegal to document illegal behavior.
I had to testify at a preliminary hearing. Susan stared at me the whole time, trying to intimidate me, but I wasn't scared anymore. I told the truth about everything I'd seen, the costume incident, the boyfriend comments, the harassment campaign. The judge looked disgusted by the time I finished. Other moms testified too. Maria talked about the social media photos. Grace explained the weird fashion shows. Julia described seeing Susan teach Susie to sit on men's laps. Each story added another piece to the horrible puzzle. Susan's lawyer objected constantly but couldn't shake our testimony. The best moment was when they played Susan's confession email in court. Her lawyer tried to claim it was taken out of context, that she was being sarcastic, but you could see the jury's faces. They weren't buying it. Susan actually started crying. Real tears this time. Reality was finally hitting her. While all this legal stuff was happening, Susie was thriving in foster care. Oakley sent updates through Child Services. Susie was making friends, doing well in school, acting like a normal kid for the first time in her...
Hooray! Happy ending? Maybe?
She'd even joined a soccer team. The transformation was amazing. Christmas was hard that year. I kept thinking about Susie spending the holidays without her mom. Even though Susan was terrible, she was still the only parent Susie had known. I asked Oakley if I could send presents. They said yes, so Isabella and I went shopping together. We picked out books and games and normal kid stuff. Susan's trial finally started in February. By then, she'd been in jail for months. She looked different, thinner, no makeup or fancy clothes, just a plain suit her lawyer probably bought. She almost looked like a regular person. Almost. But her eyes still had that calculating look. The prosecution laid out their case methodically. Evidence of grooming, financial...
You know, that calculating look is just the average epitome of someone who thinks they're smarter than anyone else in the world. You know, I had this one kid in my class who thought he was so much smarter than anyone else, you know? He was well, actually he is the second smartest kid in our country, but but you know, yeah. But still, he thought he was the smartest guy ever, you know.
Showing payments from various men, text messages arranging dates between Susie and adult men, photos from Susan's phone that made everyone in the courtroom uncomfortable. It was overwhelming. Susan's defense was pathetic. Her lawyer claimed she was a struggling single mom who made some bad choices, that she never let anyone actually hurt Susie, that the men were just friends helping out financially, that we'd all misunderstood innocent situations. Nobody believed a word of it. The worst testimony came from a detective who'd interviewed some of the men. Most claimed they thought they were just helping a single mom, but a few admitted Susan had offered them alone time with Susie for the right price.
Oh, hell no. Hell no. Alright, yeah, if the mom is not facing jail time of like 300 years, I am gonna be shocked.
She'd been building up to selling her daughter. The courtroom was dead silent during that testimony. Susan took the stand in her own defense. Big mistake. The prosecutor tore her apart. Every lie she told got exposed. Every contradiction highlighted. By the end, she was sobbing and blaming everyone else. Her parents, the system, me, everyone but herself. It was pathetic to watch. The jury deliberated for less than 2 hours. Guilty on all counts. Child endangerment, solicitation, fraud, the list went on. Susan's face went blank when they read the verdict. Like she couldn't process what was happening. Like she'd really thought she'd get away with it all. Sentencing was a month later. The judge gave her 15 years. Said she'd betrayed the most...
Yes! 15 years! God damn! But please say that there's no possibility of parole.
trust between parent and child, that she'd treated her daughter like property to be sold, that she'd shown no remorse. Susan screamed that we'd all pay for this, had to be dragged out of the courtroom. With Susan going to prison, Susie needed a permanent home. The foster family wanted to adopt her, but there was a process. Rights had to be terminated. Family had to be searched for. Home studies conducted. More waiting, more bureaucracy. But at least Susie was safe and happy. I stayed in touch with Oakley through the whole process. Went to Susie's soccer games when I could. Watched her bloom into this confident, happy kid. She started calling Oakley mom after a few months. It was beautiful to see. The adoption finalized right before summer. Our neighborhood slowly healed too. The moms who defended Susan apologized, said they should have seen the signs. Harold moved away in shame. New families moved in who had no idea about the drama. Life went back to normal, or as normal as it could be after something like that. I still think about it sometimes. How close Susan came to really hurting Susie. How many people had to fight to protect one little girl. How broken the system was. But mostly I think about how Susie is thriving now. How she gets to be a regular kid. How she's safe. Last week I ran into them at the grocery store. Susie ran up and hugged me. Told me about her new bike and her best friend Charlie and how she was learning to swim. Just normal kid stuff. Oakley thanked me again for everything. Said Susie was in therapy but doing amazing.
Wait a second. A 16-year-old and does not know how to swim? How?
Susan's in prison now. Won't be eligible for parole for at least 7 years.
I knew it! I knew it! Yes! No opportunity for parole in 7 years. Yes! Good riddance.
She still sends letters sometimes. To me, to Maria, to anyone she blames. We don't read them anymore. Just hand them straight to the police. She has no power over us now. No power over anyone. The neighborhood trick-or-treating still happens every year.
What was that? What was that?
For at least 7 years. She still sends letters sometimes. To me, to Maria, to anyone she blames. We don't read them anymore. Just hand them straight to the police. She has no power over us now. No power over anyone. The neighborhood trick-or-treating...
That, what the hell is that? But, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.